Hello everyone, and welcome to another instalment of Engine Snacks, a really special one this time, featuring your favourite and mine, Mr. Bob, against Monolith, TCEC Season 2, League 4. So, yeah, this is a really great game from Mr. Bob. It's really nice knight manoeuvres, really striking. So let's have a look at the position. A Grunfeld, Bishop E3 Grunfeld, which is actually the system I played quite a lot against the Grunfeld in my time as a professional. White has played D4 to D5, and Black's replied with this move Knight A6. Was played by quite a few strong players. I think the idea was that if this bishop on G4 gets attacked, then the bishop's still got a retreat square to D7. If Black played Knight D7, of course, that wouldn't be possible. But basically this hasn't turned out too well for Black as an idea, and it was replaced by other moves. Now the standard move here, played by Sabio Brunello against Emil Satowski, was Knight G5, but Mr. Bob plays Knight H2, and watch that knight. Doesn't look like a great starting career for the knight on H2, but well, that knight certainly gets around. So Bishop D7 played, just making use of that retreat square. Bishop E2 and now Queen A4, hitting the pawn on E4. Yeah, I mean, a little bit awkward for White to defend. I mean, something like F3 is quite natural, but Mr. Bob just sacrifices the pawn on E4 and goes Rook E1. It's a little bit awkward for Black. That queen is awkward. We've got moves like Bishop G5 and Bishop A6 threatened. Yeah, so it's not totally easy for Black, and also, I mean, moves like Bishop A6 followed by Bishop takes C5 and then Bishop E7 are also possible. So Rook Fe8 was played, pretty natural. Takes, and now a nice move from Mr. Bob, not taking on C5 because that would allow Queen takes H4, but just Bishop G5, Queen F5, Bishop E7. What is this position? In principle, it should be quite nice for White. I mean, I think the key thing is that you've played this move, Bishop takes A6. Normally in the Grunfeld, you know, if you get a situation with a bishop on E7, pawn on D6, it's quite normal. But you've normally got an onrushing queenside pawn mass to distract White. But here, of course, this isn't possible. So yeah, the weaknesses tend to count for more. Rook C8 played by Mono to defend the pawn on C5, and now look at this knight on F1 coming along. Bishop E5, D6, Rook B8 from Mono, looking for some sort of counterplay along the B file. Not really clear what's happening yet, and Mr. Bob now takes the opportunity to sack the exchange. Rook E1, and the bishop on E5 was Black's most powerful active piece, actually, apart from the queen. But actually removing it sort of kills two birds with one stone, really. I mean, the bishop on E5 is removed, but it also means that the queen also has to go passive, because the queen has to start covering these weak kingside dark squares. So Queen G7 played, and now the knight starts to come in. We're threatening to come into E4 and then F6. So Mono plays F5, but now Knight E2. It just proves impossible to stop the knight from coming in. This knight is now looking to come into F4, maybe after first putting the queen to G5, and then G6 is going to hang. And from F4 the knight can also come round to D5 and then F6. So Queen E5 was played, I think hoping to pin the knight. So if you go Queen G5, I'll defend the G6 pawn, and then the knight on E2 is pinned to the rook on E1. But White played Knight D4, discovered attack, Queen D5, and now Queen H6. Black can't take the pawn, the knight rather, because Queen takes G6, check his mate. And when you go Queen F7, I've got this great idea, Knight F3. So this knight has actually, well, taken a rather circuitous route to F3, but it's proved very effective, and now we're threatening to come into either E5 or G5. Rook B7, Knight E5, forking the queen, the bishop and the pawn. Queen G7 and Queen D2. We're threatening now Queen to D5 check, which is extremely unpleasant. Bishop E6 played, Queen G5, again combining with a knight against the pawn on G6. King H7 and Knight D3. and this is again very unpleasant. We're just threatening to come round to c5, attacking the rook on b7, supporting the pawn advance to d7, and the e6 bishop is en prise. c4 was played, knight c5, and now, well, Mono found nothing better than to play this one. But now the final nice little point, the last action of the night is heroic, knight e6, queen e7 takes, knight f8 check, picks up the rook, and after bishop e6, rook e6, Bob was in complete control. Huge pawn on e7, rook and queen combining against the pawn on g6. Black is completely passive, and Mr. Bob had no problem finishing it off. Yeah, really nice game, and I mean, I really love those knight maneuvers, starting from knight h2, then knight f1, knight g3, knight e2, knight d4, knight f3, knight e5, knight d3, knight c5, and finally knight e6. Absolutely great play from Mr. Bob.